Hey, Donald Trump, go yourself. Hi, it's me, Kathy Griffin, and welcome to a very special episode of Kathy Griffin Talk Your Head Off. And I'll tell you why. Normally, this show is light. I talk about pop culture. It takes about 5 days to edit, but today is Tuesday, September 23rd. This episode is going up today, no matter what, and it has no editing whatsoever. So I'm going to say things that are probably wrong or inaccurate. I apologize. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a historian. I'm doing the best I can. I'll be telling a lot of my own story, which I'm allowed to do. And everything I say is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so you guys know what's going on with the Jimmy Kimmel situation. This is unprecedented. I am 64 years of age, although sidebar, I keep talking about free speech and doing interviews like with Reuters, which is very prestigious, and then the Daily Mail or Hello Magazine will just talk about my facelift. So I will say Hello Magazine said I was 74, which hurt, but I am proudly 64. Okay, so you got to get in a little levity when you can, because this is a really serious situation. This is the First Amendment written on my t-shirt, and let me read it verbatim so we can all know it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So there you go. That's the actual First Amendment. It's in danger now, if not gone. So let me tell you how we got here, and then I'll go back to my story, because if you don't know, I got in a lot of trouble. I have my notes. I got in a lot of trouble for a picture that's actually now making the rounds again, because someone, not me, I didn't put this together, but someone put a saying under the photo that said, "This is your reminder that before it was Stephen Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel, it was Kathy Griffin. She warned us all." Okay, so 7 years ago, I was doing a photo shoot and I was in between gigs, and I didn't even have a publicist. And sometimes I'll just do stuff to try to make you guys laugh. And I took all these wacky photos in one day. And one of them I felt should be a protest photo about Trump, because even in 2017, I knew how dangerous he is. I also have known Donald, and there are pictures of us online, pictures of him with his arm around me at Bedminster. He hired me one time to roast him at Bedminster. It was part of an episode of The Apprentice. I was never a cast member on The Apprentice, but I was part of challenges twice. And one time I went to support my good friend, the late, great Joan Rivers. Is my nose running? I know, my nose is running because I'm nervous, you guys. And my nose just runs. Okay, so it's not even, by the way, it's like water. So it's not as gross. Anyway, so I've known the Donald. I remember one time there was a roast for Larry King, the late Larry King, and there was a dais on a stage at, I think it was the Hilton in Manhattan on 6th or 7th Avenue. And sorry, there's no editing. I just want you to stay with me. We're gonna be here probably a half an hour. That's my goal, is to not go 1 second. I have timers set and everything. So I was seated next to the Donald. He likes to be called the Donald, which I told him is the stupid. He's known me for many years. I would run into him often at NBC Universal events, which is now Peacock. And he, like me, would show up to the opening of an envelope. But I am a proud D-lister. I am not running for president, nor would I ever. I never knew he had political aspirations that were serious. I just knew him to be a buffoon, and he was like a little bit funny, actually. I have those pictures from Bedminster with him because the headliner for the event that I was hosting as part of a challenge for The Apprentice was none other than the great Liza Minnelli. So the Donald and I did not have any bad feelings between us at that time. He called me to do the hosting gig. I said no at first. He offered me $10,000, and I was teasing him, and I said, Donald, I'm not flying out to Jersey to some Fakakta golf course to roast you and host you for part of The Apprentice. My price is $50. And he gave me the 50. And David Fahrenthold from the Washington Post covered that story, so you can look that up. He actually won a Pulitzer Prize, not for that story, but for his coverage. So another thing that happened was when I did the episode that Joan Rivers was in, because remember The Apprentice, they always had the celebrity contestants do these big fundraisers for their own charities. And Joan's charity was called God's Love We Deliver, which literally gives meals to AIDS patients. It's a fantastic charity, and Joan was on the board of directors. And one of the challenges was she was selling things to other celebrities that would come and buy. And so she called me up, and I was in New York, and she said, look, I've got this bag. I called Ralph, which meant Ralph Lauren, because knowing Joan, she just knew Ralph Lauren and could call him. And I want you to come bid on this bag for charity. And overbid. And I'll never forget her saying that to me, overbid. And she said, the Donald is going to be here. And so I show up on set, and Donald was there with Ivanka, who I lovingly refer to as Bag of Xanax. Allegedly. I'm just saying, to get through one sentence with that one, it's a time commitment. And Don Jr. was there. I don't remember if Eric was there, but I remember Donald berating Don Jr. to the point where I actually felt bad for him. And Don Jr. and Eric at that time were just known as his grown children that would appear on The Apprentice. They didn't really have like their own gig or anything. And so Donald is a big star fucker, and he can act like he hates me now, and he can deny this all he wants. And I don't know where those tapes are, by the way. The fact that they're still missing, and he's the current president of the United States, is very bizarre to me. But he kept wanting to stand near me, and it was very awkward to see his behavior around Ivanka. I'm just telling you what I saw with my own eyes. So this was my interpretation of what I saw. And he acted like, or I felt like he had feelings toward Ivanka that you would have toward your wife. So that's what made it awkward. Anyway, I ended up getting the Ralph Lauren bag, and Joan Rivers, who, by the way, went on to win that season of The Celebrity Apprentice, which was amazing and groundbreaking, another glass ceiling that she broke, because even then she was a woman of a certain age. So to win a very popular primetime show was a really cool thing for me to watch as a female comedian, and to see her do so well that she won was a big deal. And I did watch The Apprentice all the time. I thought it was a really interesting show, and I thought the Donald was silly and funny, and he let me touch his hair. And the last time I saw him, when I roasted him at Bedminster, as I was walking toward him, he was going, oh, here she comes. Look out, look out. Don't be too tough on me. Don't be too tough on the hair. And I said, well, let me feel it. And I felt it, and it felt like a very crusty bird's nest. Okay, so that is my history with the Donald. Oh, side note, and once again, the Washington Post did the research on this themselves and printed an article about it. When it came time to make the donation for the Ralph Lauren handbag, I wanted to donate directly to God's Love We Deliver, because I know that to be a legitimate charity. But production kept wanting me to make the checkout, although I used a credit card because, of course, me being me, I wanted the miles as well. And I refused to make it out to the Donald J. Trump Foundation, which is what they kept insisting. So once again, I'm a difficult B word, because I was the only one on set going, no, I'm not just writing a check to the Donald. Like, I don't trust him. This money needs to go to God's Love We Deliver. And so David Fahrenthold and the Washington Post, they were able to find the actual receipt where I wrote the credit card receipt out to the charity directly. And the production team was not happy. So I don't know if that ever got back to the Donald himself, but that would be the sort of thing that would really probably tick him off. Can you see how hard I'm trying not to swear today? Okay, so when he became president, I couldn't believe it. I sort of thought it was a joke that he was even running. I certainly was one of those people that was very upset when Secretary Clinton did not win. I couldn't believe it, by the way. I kept thinking, it was going to be an Al Gore recount situation, or there had been some sort of mistake. There were already a lot of talks and rumors about him being literally a Russian plant. So I know that sounds pretty crazy. We're already 10 minutes. Okay, so let me wipe my nose again. No editing. And get right to Kimmel. So I thought he was a holy terror during his first administration. So when I did this photo shoot, I really thought people would back me up. I thought, at least in the Hollywood community, with the liberal elites, I would get support. And I also thought everyone else recognized how dangerous the Donald was. And I got no support. In fact, I read on the ticker, I used to host New Year's Eve on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and it was only one night a year, but I really enjoyed doing that gig, and I had a lot of fun doing it with him. And it used to be just 90 minutes, and then when I came on board, they grew it to 4.5 hours, and I would prepare for it kind of off and on all year, and it was really fun. So I'm at home, and the picture goes up on TMZ of all places, and it is my humble opinion that TMZ is very pro-Trump. And if you look at their coverage of all things related to Trump, sure, they'll throw in a kind of anti-Trump piece now and again, but by and large, what I observe, just me, is that they really go for Trump's enemies, I'm one of them, and people on his enemies list, which he talks about a lot, and they seem to want to tear them down, but they seem to want to build up the Donald. So there's some relationship between Donald Trump and Harvey Levin that I don't understand. And I am alleging this. I have no proof, Harvey, but it seems like you two are in bed together in a way that is a shame, because TMZ is a powerful outlet. Whether you want to laugh at it or it's your guilty pleasure, like the Joe Rogan show, there's real power there, Okay, so the picture went live, it went on TMZ, and then immediately the White House and the administration went into action. And then I saw on the ticker, I'm just watching CNN. CNN has terminated our agreement with Kathy Griffin to appear on our New Year's Eve program. So that was not fun. But I'll tell you the funny part is I did have one brand deal. And when you're on the D list, you don't get the big brands. But I was the face of Squatty Potty. You heard me. That little stool that you put at the base of your toilet? Okay, so they said, Kathy Griffin is not, nor has ever been Squatty Potty's spokesperson. She was hired to make one commercial. Squatty Potty has pulled said commercial as well as other promotional and marketing content featuring Kathy Griffin. So, when you get dropped by Squatty Potty, it's bad. Now, I have gone through many phases. When that picture blew up, it became global. I was in the middle of a 50-city tour. I had 25 cities left. And within 72 hours of Trump himself making the following statement on Twitter, when Twitter was a really big deal before Elon bought it and made it, in my opinion, a Nazi playground. And Trump tweeted, Kathy Griffin should be ashamed of herself. My children, especially my 11-year-old son, Barron, are having a hard time with this. Sick. All right. So then Melanie comes in. I call the wife Melanie. And by the way, could there be more pictures of Donald and Melania with Jeffrey Epstein? Let me repeat that. Could there be more photos and video of Donald Trump and Melania with Jeffrey Epstein? Is what I'm saying, to maybe suggest that the Jimmy Kimmel situation is a distraction from that, because I feel like my cancellation was a distraction from the fact that Robert Mueller had just been appointed the special counsel days earlier. Okay, so Melanie says, as a mother, a wife, and a human being, and let's just stop there. If you have to assert that you're a human being, that's funny. I'm going to go for you. It's just funny. That photo is very disturbing. When you consider the atrocities happening in the world today, a photo opportunity like this is simply wrong and makes you wonder about the mental health of the person who did it. Well, you don't have to wonder. I'm crazy, and I happily admit it. I just finished a tour called My Life on the PTSD List. Okay, so when the Jimmy Kimmel situation started going down, I just didn't think it would go this far. So where we are today is that Jimmy Kimmel has been pulled off the air, much in the way that Stephen Colbert was. Now, when I did my sit down with Reuters, I got into the weeds a little bit, so hear me out. There are these companies that you probably haven't heard of, and I admit I haven't heard of some of them. And certain mergers are so big and so valuable, they have to have the permission of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and that's a government agency. It's run by a guy named Brendan Carr. He is the current chair. He was appointed in, I believe, 2012. So he didn't become the chair then, but he's now, in my opinion, gone full MAGA. And regarding Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, he said, and I quote on some podcast, "Look, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way." And I guess pulling a late night talk show host is doing it the hard way. But what I want to ask you guys is whether you agree with me or love me or hate me, or you're a Democrat or Republican or neither or independent, is that what you really want? Do you really want one Trump-appointed chair, a secretary in the cabinet, deciding whether or not Stephen Colbert stays on or whether or not Jimmy Kimmel stays on? I don't think so. And by the way, if you don't like the Jimmy Kimmel show, you can turn the channel. Nobody is forcing you to watch it. And so where we are now is that, from my understanding, Jimmy told his bosses that he would not capitulate to the Donald. And I think that is incredibly brave and difficult. And I have not spoken to him. I'm not acting like I have. I reached out once because I know he's under a specter that I was under and I can relate to. The fallout from my decapitated head photo, which was a Halloween mask with ketchup on it, and it was a spoof of Perseus and Medusa. So there's a very famous statue of Perseus holding up Medusa's head, and I thought a good statement would, for me to be a D-list female comedian holding up the head of Donald Trump. So what Trump and the administration did is they put me on the no-fly list, the Interpol list, which is the international version of the no-fly list, and the ISIS terror watch list. So to this day, I don't know exactly what they put on my passport, but it was something. And when people say, well, if it could happen to me, it could happen to you, take it from me. It did happen to me, and it will happen to you. This is no longer a story about me or a couple of Hollywood elitists. And by the way, that's not who Jimmy Kimmel is. I've known him since he was the sports guy at K-Rock here in Los Angeles, and he's really put his time in. He's hosted the Academy Awards, the Emmys, everything. He's been on the air for decades. He's, feels like a family member to some of us. And he does address issues that get right into Trumpville. And I also don't think we want a president that has an army. And I'm using air quotes because it's not the actual army yet. But I would not put that past him as well, because remember, he signals what he's going to do before he does it. So when he talks about taking people and shows off the air because he doesn't like what they said, he'll make up some BS reason. Like in my case, with the photo I took, they said that American service members were going to be beheaded in my name and make ISIS propaganda where they name-checked me and said, this American service member's head is for you, Kathy Griffin. And people actually believed it. So I'm here to say that was BS. It's been 7 years. I've been through hell and high water. I've been physically assaulted on the street. I've been fired more than I've been hired. The tour I was in the middle of got cut off halfway through because there were so many bomb threats and death threats toward me. The feds were showing up at my house at least once a week for many weeks. They had to do something called a duty to warn, which is if a threat toward me was so credible as the FBI deemed credible, they have to go to your house, tell you in person, partially what the threat is. They can't tell you everything because it's an open investigation, and they give you a letter that I believe I had to sign it, and it's called a duty to warn. So it's a way of them saying we came to her house and tried to warn her. So that was happening. I doubt Jimmy Kimmel can go where he wants to right now and walk around and be himself. He's not the type of celebrity that is, only going to A-list events constantly. What do we have, 5 minutes?
Yeah, we're at 20.
We're at 20? Okay. I'm really trying to be concise, you guys. And I'm not going to get into the talking points of the other side, because another thing that Trump does is he tries to both sides everything. Remember Charlottesville, where Nazis killed Heather Heyer? And then what did the president, I hate to even use that term, but what did the Donald do? He said there were both sides. There's not two sides to Nazism. And if you want to read history, in my opinion, what's happening in the United States is similar to what was happening in Germany in the 1930s. And we all know how that ended up. It's also very similar to what I have learned in school or picked up along the way. I still read the newspaper about how life is in Russia with Vladimir Putin. We all know that Trump and Putin are friends. They seem to be such close friends that it seems to appear to me that Putin has some level of dirt on the Donald, that Donald will do whatever Putin says. And so it looks to me like the Donald, who thinks he's this strong man, has bent the knee and gotten on one knee to Putin so many times that he's now just on all fours. And that's our president. That's who's representing us. There is a world stage. I think we should care about it. I was able to travel overseas after my cancellation because I wasn't welcome in my own country. I was stopped at every single airport in the United States and outside. And what I want to tell you happened is different than what you may hear on the news, because as I watch the news coverage, I'm like, no, I lived it. That's not how it goes down. So there was probably something on my passport. I filed a FOIA, which is called a Freedom of Information Act, and it was heavily redacted, but it showed how serious the administration was with trying to charge me, D-list, my life on the D-list, Kathy Griffin, not the biggest star in the world by any stretch, not selling the most tickets by any stretch, but there was something on there where it seemed as if they were trying to prohibit me from even being able to tour. So when I would get detained, they would take my phone and my passport and just leave. So even though I have an amazing team of very brilliant attorneys, when you can't call your attorney when you're being detained in Singapore or New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Minneapolis, overseas, Reykjavik, Iceland, London Heathrow Airport. I mean, I was detained at every single airport. Sometimes it would be 20 minutes, sometimes it would be hours, and it was very frightening. It was often on a show night for me. So while a lot of you might be thinking, why don't you sue the administration? I want to be clear. When we talk about the First Amendment rights are violated when the government infringes them and infringes you. Is that the right way to put it? It's when the government keeps you from benefiting from the First Amendment, which is supposed to be etched in stone and as solid as it can get. There's a reason it's the First Amendment. And by the way, I don't really know the other ones, but I know that first one back and forth. And you don't want the government deciding what comedians you can go see. You don't want the federal government canceling TV shows because they don't like something the host said, deciding to put on a certain scripted show because there's a merger between Paramount Plus and Skydance. I don't even know what Skydance is. I'm so D-list. But that was a merger that had to be okayed by Brendan Carr and the FCC. And Brendan Carr, that merger did go through, I believe. And the latest one is between a company called Tegna, and the other company is Nexstar. Okay, so what those are companies that own your local affiliates. So for example, the reason I'm doing these emergency live episode is because I really want to see how Jimmy Kimmel is going to handle all of this, because tonight is his first show back, and I don't even know how I can watch it because my local ABC affiliate is owned by Nexstar. And Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, okay, we have 5 minutes. Brendan Carr has signaled that he would okay the merger between Nexstar and Tegna, which is a $6.2 billion merger. So there's a reason that we have laws in this country that have gone through the Congress saying that's too much power. There's actually an FCC ruling saying no company can control more than 39% of what we are all able to consume on all of television, not just news, not just comedy, not just late night, not just scripted, all of it. So this merger between Tegna and Nexstar would be covering 80% of all of the television that you think you're deciding on what you want to watch, but it's actually the government with, in my opinion, Donald Trump putting his thumb firmly on the scale against folks like Jimmy Kimmel. He is signaling that he's now going to cancel The View. I have made a lot of jokes about The View, but I actually think it's a very important show. It's all women. They cover political topics. And during my cancellation, I do want to say Jimmy Kimmel was the only talk show host that would have me on multiple times. So he never canceled me. So of course, I feel very warmly toward him. And I also think that was brave of him just to even book me as a guest. And I got into a beef with Elon Musk, who I also think is a Nazi or has Nazi leanings. He did the Hitler salute twice at some inaugural event. You all saw it. Let's not act like we didn't see things that we saw. And so I got into a beef with him on Twitter, and then he took my account away. And then Jimmy had his staff write a really funny sketch where I got to go on the Jimmy Kimmel show and play Elon Musk in order to humiliate Elon, which, by the way, is pretty easy to do because he's not somebody that I would trust with anything or anyone. So the reason this affects you is we all like our information, entertainment, scripted, unscripted. We have movie nights. We still get together and watch stuff, whether it's on your phone or your iPad. And this administration is particularly vindictive. So please listen to me. Do not underestimate the power that they will wield, the power that they will yield. And I believe they're doing it now. And it has a trickle-down effect. Like when I got fired from CNN, like I said, even though it was only a one-night-a-year gig, a lot of people knew me from that job. I mean, I think it helped me even get my second book deal. And I'm watching TMZ one day, and then I see my former boss at Bravo, who is not exactly a Kathy Griffin fan, and he's caught by TMZ, and this was after he replaced me on CNN New Year's.
Have you talked to Kathy at all in the meantime? Did you run it by her first before he accepted it? Or, oh, Kathy Griffin. Oh, Kathy Griffin. I don't...
Sorry, guys, I have to do it again. Being a boomer, I turned it off by mistake and turned the volume down. So once again, I just want to show you, I got canceled. You can love me or hate me, but you really don't want your former boss going on TMZ doing something like this. And then 7 years down the road, we have, TMZ, who, like I said, I feel is very much in bed with this administration and the bad parts of this administration, giving someone like this a platform. Just imagine, is as loud as it can be. Just imagine if this was you they were talking about.
You talked to Kathy at all in the meantime? Did you run it by her first before he accepted it? Or, oh, Kathy Griffin. Oh, Kathy Griffin. I don't know her. The ex-host. Oh, okay. Madison.
Okay.
What do you mean? Like, she used to host it with Anderson, now it's going to be you. You're kind of replacing her, right?
Oh, okay.
Because CNN gave her the axe. How come this is news to you?
Oh, no.
So you haven't talked to Kathy Griffin about it at all?
No.
No? This is a bizarre interview, man.
Is it?
What, you don't know who Kathy Griffin is?
Trying to remember.
The redhead one, the Trump head, who used to host. You're a replacement, Andy.
Anderson and I have been on tour for 2.5 years together.
So the New Year's thing,
Duo. We're a duo.
for the New Year's thing, though, I love you guys. Hey, what's the most annoying thing about Andy, about Anderson Cooper?
It's naughty.
Okay. So I am going back on tour. Here is my flyer. Yes, I'm so old-timey that I still use flyers. And after the Jimmy Kimmel situation heated up, I added this line on here that says, every ticket you purchase is a middle finger to censorship. And I'm going to the real America, folks, because the one thing that even the president can't do is stop regular folks from buying tickets to come see me and give me the opportunity to try to make you laugh. So I'm going to be watching Kimmel tonight. I'm so much looking forward to it because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how many stations it's going to be allowed to run on. We don't know how far the censorship is going to go. And we don't know who is next. But there's going to be a next person, and then a person after that, and then an entity. And this is a spiral into what's called a kleptocracy. Some people say authoritarianism. I prefer kleptocracy. Anyway, that's my speech. I am a fan of Jimmy Kimmel's. I think the work he does is important. I think it's essential that comedians do touch on political topics during times like this. We are not in Kardashian anymore, where all that we do is talk about the latest wacky thing on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. These are serious times, and we need Jimmy to keep making us laugh and to keep doing his job. So thank you for bearing with me and all the mistakes that I've been making. And I love you guys. And I'll see you next Tuesday on Kathy Griffin Talk Your Head Off.